you want to have a talk to someone, you literally click the button, 3 seconds later the phone rings, and then another 10 seconds you're talking to someone. The interesting part is you think you're talking to a human, but you're actually not. You're actually talking to an AI bot, which they don't tell you until you ask it certain questions and they say they have to go back to their supervisor. But in that type of situation, this is how fast line compared to what we think when we line up to, for example, to wait on the call to the bank because something's happened in our Visa card or MasterCard or something like that, and we sit waiting for half an hour on the phone. These tools, which brings us way, way ahead of our competitors, and we're going to be out the front.
This is the Business Owners Smashing It Online podcast for entrepreneurs and business owners looking for cool online tools, apps and strategies to make business easy online. My name is Nick Cree and I'm your host. Each episode features a guest expert demystifying the online universe, sharing inspirational ideas and providing tested real-world strategies to help you get the most of what's available online to grow your business today. Don't be a slave to your business, get your business working for you. Subscribe now and get some great content and ideas for you and your business today. All right, well, let's move through to our presentation tonight. David Fisher, I can see he is itching to get going and come and talk to us about a particular tool that has been a godsend for him in his work and his business. For those that haven't met David before, he may look familiar. He has been on the show for a number of years as a participant. Today, he is in front of the screen, sharing with us some of his knowledge and some of his expertise. So he began as a carpenter 45 years ago. He's been in the building and construction industry. In fact, he's managed some pretty major or pretty large firms in Australia and New Zealand. When I say large, I'm about national firms, biggest ones. Think of biggest, that's David. So he's been managing some of those. And of course, in that, project management, systems and procedures are really a mainstay of ensuring that a house actually gets built properly, gets delivered, doesn't fall down after it's built. It's got all these checks and balances. So he comes from a real background of systems and procedures. Today, he is a business exit and beyond mentor. He helps people to transition from being in business to being out of business or into the next phase of life. One of the things that you don't want to say to David is the word retired, that there is a swear word. He's got other ways of viewing that transition to life as well too, and pretty healthy ones as well. So I really like what David does, and it's my pleasure to have him here on the show tonight. So let's give him a big warm round of applause to come present to us tonight.
Right. Thank you for that big warm welcome, Nick. So yeah, no, my background, like I say, is from construction, and didn't spend a lot of time in housing. It was more in the commercial sectors, but yeah, we've got up to 1.2 billion hospitals. So that was one of the biggest in that light. So like I say, if I've come from that realm, there's all sorts of possibilities for everyone else to start looking at where they go with the world of AI, which we're doing. So obviously that little trinket that's up the sleeve was Asana. So moving forward with that, that's what we're actually going to go through, some 5 smart moves before AI takes over. And I know it sounds a bit scary, but if we don't adopt it into our businesses, we mightn't have a business. And I'm not trying to scare everyone off, but I'd rather that they prepare and then move forward from that. So obviously, we've got a little bit of a background that I won't go through all of those decades, but for decades in building, construction and businesses, started some, sold them off. Some of them I sort of closed down. There's a whole range of different sorts of things in business. So I could probably say I was a bit qualified in that space. So we did create a whole range of different things throughout. So the Business Exit and Beyond, which is what Nick is talking about, and then the Business Exit Club, and the Business Exit AI. So that's where we are tonight. There's a whole range of other things, but that's really what we're talking about tonight. So everyone's very interested in that space. So we'll just go through a little bit about how I landed up in that space. So Asana is one of those tools that you look at the different ones like Monday and all the rest of it, you give them all a try, you've got all this time on your hands, and so you do it. And then, but Asana just at the ease of use. So we've sort of got a motto that if it's not easy to use, then we don't use it. So some of them are very good platforms, don't get me wrong, and I don't want to knock anyone, but they're not that easy to use. So if they're not easy to use for us, they're not going to be easy to use for anyone else that's in our world that's trying to prepare to exit, who generally aren't that sort of what I call software savvy and all the rest of it, that need a little bit of a handle on the line. And so that's where we brought all of the tools into place. So as we go through that, you'll see that going through those 5 steps, that everything is centralized. So what it means there is, for example, you have Microsoft, you have or Google, or whichever world you're in, it actually seamlessly gets integrated into that system. So it's not like you have to throw away all the toys that you've got, all the tools, and then bring it and start it all over again. What it's doing is it's really getting rid of all of those spreadsheets and sticky notes and all of those things that we've all been through and stuck on our walls and writing notes on the back of pieces of paper, or back in the building days on the back of a piece of 4B2, all of the likes. All of those things, let's get into one central spot. So not only is it used on your phone and your computer, it's all part of your life. So what we say is if it's not in Asana, it doesn't get done. And like you say, it all connects into all of that. So for example, we are very Google orientated. A lot of our clients are Microsoft. So all of that stuff connects with that. So the rules is a set of rules like Nick was going on about before, how you can automate things. So you actually have to create rules that go from one spot to the other. So pretty much is to do with repetitive actions. So moving from one stage to the other. So generally you might have someone ring you up and then they put in an order. So then you need to go and place the order, put that order towards a wholesaler and go through all those processes. Just think that this can be actually automated within a system like this, where one trigger opens up the next space. So that's why you've got the world of streamlining the processes. Now, while it's streamlining something, you have to start thinking about the process. So if you don't track it, then how do you know how it's working? So remember, when we're using AI as a tool, we're using it to assist us. We're not using it and saying, AI, you do everything. It doesn't work that way. So what it does is it sets up dashboards, portfolios, and goals. And we'll go through that in more detail as we go. But pretty much it's working to get everything done and moving forward together. So it's like a teammate. So as we were talking about the other different bots before, this is going to be something that's going to help you along that journey. Now, number 4 is sort of keep everyone on the same page. So if you've got, for example, you've got emails going out, someone's sending a text, someone's on Slack and all these different parts, how do you keep up with that? Same thing, you can actually plug those into the Asana platform. So that's why the collaboration tools that we talk about. And then you start communicating on one page. So your teams are on one page is who you invite in. If you've got clients, you can invite them into certain parts of it, and then they can communicate, but they don't have everything else. The next part is sort of laying the groundwork for the AI-powered insights. So when you start looking at the features of it, you're sort of your future AI assistant. So, most people have an assistant that helps them, or if you're a small business that you don't, then you have to do all of the job. So can you imagine yourself having an extra hour or 2 a day? That's kind of like our goal. How can you achieve 1 or 2 extra hours a day where you can spend time on your business, you can spend time with your family and your wife or husband, This is so you can build relationships because we're humans, and we're utilizing AI in our life for our benefit, not for it to rule us. So to do that, in the world of Asana, they have a whole lot of different training, which is open to everyone. So it's I'm not saying it's the easiest of what you have to do, but they have a certified program that they go through. So you learn a lot as you're applying it, going through the different processes. So you have to update that every year. I tell you, it totally changes from year to year, even though you don't do one every month, but it's changing literally month by month as well. So you've got the workflow, the AI for work, those types of certificates, but it all leads to a system. So we have the business exit operating system. So you would have heard of Apple has its own operating system. There's lots of different operating systems. McDonald's has its own operating system. All of this is kind of what's plugged in. That's why we're using this tool. So as you can see, we've got the preparation stage. So get yourself exit ready. You've got the optimization stage, which increases your business value, and the transformation. So that's where you're moving on from your business, or that transformation could be in the process of transferring a lot of responsibilities in your team. So you sort of stepping back. That's a big word, transformation. So, but today you'll see we're highlighted in the optimization stage. So we're trying to enhance, maximize the value of that business, and you'll see marketing as well. So the marketing part of that is that when someone comes along to look at your business and what it's worth, and all of a sudden they're going to be very interested because it's an automated system. They don't want to buy a job. They want to have something that is rolling, ideally where they've got little input. So that makes a huge amount. And if you can show that in the marketing of your business, you are going to get a lot of money for it today. So as they say in Asana, a smarter way to work. So just to give it a little bit of credibility, because obviously you're putting a lot of data, you're putting a lot of information. And if you go and look at these companies, for example, like Amazon, and you've got Slack, Google, HelloFresh, which is an Australian company, Uber, all of those big names, those companies have their systems or standard operating systems, their collaboration with all of their teams, everything in this platform. So that's pretty impressive. So if it's 73% of the Fortune 500 are using that, I think that's probably a big tick. As far as I'm concerned, we've been using it for the last few years, and we've enjoyed the whole process. But when people connect with it and they can use it, we get really excited as well. But yeah, look at these big players. So you look, for example, with Amazon, not only is it plugged into there, if you ring them up tomorrow or tonight and you want to have a talk to someone, you literally click the button, 3 seconds later the phone rings, and then another 10 seconds you're talking to someone. The interesting part is you think you're talking to a human, but you're actually not. You're actually talking to an AI bot, which they don't tell you until you ask it certain questions and they say they have to go back to their supervisor. But in that type of situation, this is how fast line compared to what we think when we line up to, for example, to wait on the call to the bank because something's happened in our Visa card or MasterCard or something like that, and we sit waiting for half an hour on the phone. These tools, which brings us way, way ahead of our competitors, and we're going to be out the front while they're going to get left behind. And even the cost of them is very minimal, really, once you've got it all set up in place. So, as we all know, there's lots and lots of talk about AI. So what I'm going to do is kind of explain it because there's a lot to it. So I'm going to read this out because there's a lot of depth in it, but pretty much the HR teams, for example, 95% of executives, so that's your high-end companies, believe AI tools, ChatGPT, Google, Gemini, and etc., are more effective than search engines such as Google for research. So Google Gemini, which is own, obviously the Google platform, is saying that. So that's a big call, isn't it? So when you think now, do you jump on Google for something, or do you jump on ChatGPT or whatever platform that you've got? Which one do you go to research something? And it's interesting because even today, someone wanted to know a basic value on what their business would be worth, and first to sell their business. So we broke it out into that part. And you can literally go on there and you can actually search ChatGPT, give it a prompt with all the details of what you do. And so having an understanding, because I did a degree in valuation and property management, I asked it all of those right questions, and it was amazing. And then how it actually collected all of that data and an estimated mark backed up with, for example, real estate commercial, which is the Anama, the realestate.com. All of that stuff was all backed up from many years of utilizing an AI tool that it literally took like a minute. And all of that process was on a snapshot, and then you could get a square meterage rate and then break it down, where obviously the people are, how should we say, very optimistic on some of their ranges. And in that particular case, they're like about 40% a bit high. But that's just another tool that you can jump onto straight away. So on that, obviously, as we're talking about, that's just a quick snapshot of a paid version. So it's $20 a month. So it's a grand tool, seriously. And you can break it out into different parts of all of that process and work your way through it. So utilize these tools. Remember, it's not just one tool. You're plugging a whole lot of tools into one system, or you've got a series of systems. So, but look at all that process. The other exciting part is that let's look at this. Looks like an interesting diagram, doesn't it? So machine learning. So machine learning, I'm going to have to look at the definition below and read that out. But machine learning really is a very, what does it say here? Machine learning. Let me scroll up. Machine learning is about teaching computers to learn and improve from experience without being explicitly programmed. So that's an interesting explicitly programmed. It's a technique where machines learn patterns automatically from data. So if you go and look, for example, from not being programmed, so they're coming out with their own programs because they are the computers, aren't they? So where are they getting these patterns from? These patterns are actually coming from ourselves. So all of those inputs that we're inputting. So that's why you have to be a little bit careful with OpenAI in that sort of do not put, I'll just say, sensitive information on there, because it's going to collect all that and utilize all of that. When they put your names and different things like that, it will literally pick all of that up. And so that's why, for example, going through this process, that your detail stuff is so important that it has a serious amount of security around it as well. But that's the process of machine learning. So it's like letting the machine figure it out on its own and showing a lot of examples in large quantities of data. And the more data it sees, the smarter it gets. So as we're loading in this data over the years, it's just getting smarter and smarter and smarter. So that's why in a matter of months and weeks, everything's just changed. Like when it first popped out in 2023, people are saying, oh, this is what's going to happen in 5 years. Well, the 5 years already turned up now. So it's such a pace. So Nick was talking about bots before and the different AI agents. So we're actually creating those ourselves. So it's not to take away, and our business is very personal when it comes to gathering information and all that. And same thing, this doesn't go into the open world. This is all goes back into our own. But there's a lot of repetitive type questions that just starts the flow and the trigger. So we get a more in-depth interview and conversation with our clients by using a chatbot like this. this is like the same thing. It's like having an assistant that goes through the first step, and then it's like a discovery call. So the discovery call is what we input into it. It's not like you've just got someone and they've just started and you just want them to get on the phone to fill in the dots. This is actually what you put into it. So if you put bad information in there, then you're not going to get ideal information out. So just remember that we've all got very much part of our world that we need to put the right prompts, as it's called, or the inputs in before we get the right outputs out. So large language models, right? An exciting type of generative AI system that specializes in creating text that sounds remarkably human-like. So what are we doing now? We're grabbing our phones and we're talking into it, aren't we? So we can literally jump on our phone with ChatGPT and we can talk to it, right? So this is that type of example. And instead of us writing the text, we can talk to it, and that's exactly, it can respond accordingly from what we speak into our phone. So a lot of that started from the basic text, the texting system from way back when we could, in the beginning, it was like on a keyboard going back. We've all been around for a while. So we had to go and abbreviate each time when we had like a 1, 2, 3, and it had whatever it was with the different letters in it. That's where we've gone from that point of a text to where we are now. So this is another step up in all of those processes. So you can see that, and a lot of you would recognize these different platforms. So for example, look at Gemini, for example. Why are they in there? So they've got chatterbots and all the rest of it, right? So that's Google. So Google, you got Google, everyone talks about Google search. They know that they have to pivot, otherwise virtually they will become more kind of redundant in a funny way, but they have to pivot as well. So you go, for example, as Nick was talking about getting paid from Facebook, which is Meta. So they've got theirs. For example, they've got chatbots and open AI processes. You've got Elon down east, Elon Musk, which is XAI. Anything with an X on it's generally got related to Elon, but with Croc. So he's jumped into that space. Claude, different type. You've got DeepSeek, which is a Chinese one, I believe. So they've come up with some pretty rigorous sort of creations that they've created over time. And so this is where it's going within that space. So, and then of course we all understand the little pop-up at the bottom of your screen, and we have a prompt. So we're all dealing with that today, where it's got a little prompt and you ask it a question and backwards and forwards. So that's been around for a few years now, and we thought that was so exciting in the little chatbots that we've got, that now all we do is we've just gone from a chatbot to a chatterbot. And so now they talk to you instead of just chatting to you in that sort of process. Same thing, where they've come from the basics of the text to where they've gone from next. Now, when we're talking about outcomes and the likes, here's what we back to sort of the main sort of a foundation, I would say, is where you've got measurements, you've got strategies, you've got execution, and ultimately at the top, you've got an outcome of whatever you want to achieve. So you say you want to say onboard people or do something, that might be the outcome, and then it works its way through that sort of processes. So we still have to create the strategies, right? With the assistance of AI. We still have to execute the process by doing the inputs. It doesn't just happen. And obviously the tools can help us measure it as we're in that process. But that foundational chart there really has never changed. Like you can go back to the days when they were building the pyramids and you had a whole lot of individuals that were cracking stones and carrying them. to the next team that were more strategic at putting them together, and then you've got the king or whatever sitting on the top. But it still had the same type of principles of what that is. So in Asana space, just going back to the principle of, say, the pyramid, it all goes back to your mission. So we have a mission to, obviously, when Nick was talking about non-retirement, it's not like if someone wants to retire, that's fine, but we think that you can do a lot more. So our motto is that it's all about kindness and it's all about wisdom. So if you mix the kindness and wisdom together, that's really our mission of everything that we do. So if there isn't like a group of people, like this group is very interactive and kind and whatever to one another, that's the groups we want to hang out with. And that's what we have to remember as humans, that we need to hang out with the like-minded people. So it's the same thing. So a business has a mission. So you've got money to be made, yes, correct. But there's more to that to attract people today. You have to attract the right people. So once you break that down, you break it down into a form of goals. So within that, you've got a series which you could go back to a business plan, so which have targets and goals of what they wanted to achieve. They could break it down into 6-month periods or the likes. You've got portfolios, so that breaks it off again into a bigger group. So you might have a group that's related to your marketing group, for example, and then that's their portfolio. You might have a sales portfolio. You might have the ones that are actually building a product. That's a portfolio. And each one of those breaks out into a project. So coming from the construction industry, it's still the same process. But we all have projects as well. But within an organization, there's a whole lot of projects going on at one time, which then goes back to a construction manager, which then goes back to a director and a whole lot as it goes up the top. So there needs to be that type of structure. And then the day-to-day stuff is all about the tasks. So if you go and look at the tasks, the day-to-day stuff that you have to do, same thing, it actually tracks all of that process. So if you look at the line very briefly at the bottom, you've got the automations, you've got the integrations, as we were talking about integrating, for example, like your CRM or your Google Docs or your Microsoft products or whatever you want to do. All of that integrates. You don't need to just throw those away. You just join them in. Then the workflow is the same thing. That had the likes of triggers. And so one thing starts and then it moves on to the next and it becomes automated and said, you physically have to pick up this to ring up the phone to do that order and all the rest of it. Then you've got a resource of people. So now you're going to have resource management. So we all know about resources and we all know about management. The two knit together. So think of it working together with the AI and your team. And as you're tracking along, you want to know where you're going. There's no point building a project and then you're losing a whole lot of money because you haven't set it up, you haven't got the right team, you haven't got the right people or whatever it is, or it hasn't been led correctly. Then it needs to be reported. So you don't leave it to the end and say, oh, I've just lost $1 million. You need to do something dramatically now, there and then. So this is tracking to a point that if you want a daily tracking process, you can have daily. If you want to say, look, I want to track whatever you're doing weekly, but there's always milestones. There's always a period of time that you really need to keep a handle on that. And then I honestly believe with everything and some of the horror stories I've heard about security of information through different platforms. I'm not going to name platforms, but that is so important. And this is where they actually encrypt it. So you would have heard about going back in the war days of the encryptation and what they did between the Germans and the English and the likes. This is a very sophisticated format of that. So even the people within the organization, as in the Asana management and other associated people, they can't go in the back office and go and have a look at what you're doing. It's impossible. So, and I really emphasize that point because it's very, very important, because especially if you're a person that's preparing your business to be sold and you think that you've got a buyer and you've got this information open, slanted to the process, and then they can see what's going on, you're not in a good spot. in that sort of area. So that's pretty much about the graph and AI that's connected with all of that process. Now, it would take me a long time to go through all the different parts of it. So I've just done a few little snapshots of it, keeping privacy at bay. That's why it's quite chopped out. But you'll see the lists, the boards. So you can see the stages. So for example, here, it's blanked out to the assignee, but create a campaign, right? So Nick knows all about creating marketing campaigns, and I'm sure he plans it. That's a stage that he would do, and he's either going to do it himself or he's going to assign it to different people, but then he might oversee all of that. So there's different parts to all of that. And then like the goals, determine the goals. So you've got milestones. If you've got, give someone a target to what they have to do, and then you move through that. So from there, that opens up into timelines, the calendars. You can all of that in one spot. Gantt charts, which is a very typical construction formula. If you know about Microsoft projects and whatever, that's been very much part of my life, of reading those, trying to make sure that you hit the deadlines. But it's all there, and you can keep adding to those different parts too. That's a very basic one there, just so you can understand about the process of a marketing launch, because it's relevant to this topic here. So here we are in AI. We can move on to the next part of that. We talked about safety, and I think you've probably got a good eye handling on the process of all of that. But what I'd like to jump into now is that some rules. Let's look at how you can create some rules. So when you've got the when, the check, if, and to do this. So if you go and look down the side, and you can have your AI assistant. So remember, this AI assistant is Asana's AI assistant. It's not a third party. So it's all same thing. It's all encrypted. It doesn't go outside of your world of what you've got. So for example, you can look at if a task is to be completed, check if it's been in the planning section, so move it. I can open this up a little bit more if you like. Here we go. So in this part here, you can see the when and check if and to do. So these parts here, this is all the process of the workflows that we do. So you've got if the task to be completed, you've got the different planning part, and then the suggestions that come from there. So all of this process, if you have to set, the human is setting these rules with the assistant. So remember, once it's set, it's not set and forget, but the rules are set for that particular project. And if you like, you can duplicate that model as well and then modify it. So don't think you have to go and start all over again. So in this process, you start looking at reviewing it, right? So we put some rules into place, same thing. Do we just forget about them? No, we have to review these rules. How are they working? Do they have to be moved around? So remember, like the task, the when, the if, and all those different parts. Just using an example as the planning stage. All those elements, so they're called elements, it can be all moved around as well and added. You just keep adding pluses, but they all join together. And you'll see below, you can actually track them out. So for example, at the planning stage, you can drop that down and start adding them into that part. And then that one triggers another trigger that triggers right through the different process. So it's quite interesting of what you can actually do by putting them in place and then reviewing all of this process. And then you go back to AI as well, and they can review those different spaces as well. So in this area, this is actually our own. So for example, is a project called the Chatbots.ai. So Chatbots account. So we literally just jumped onto that a week or so ago. So we use Mastermind. So it's a go high level white label. So some of that you actually have to go back to the principal person that has it to go and do it, but that's part of their support platform for them to do. So it's not like if you have an agency, for example, at Go High Level, you could jump onto that and then you have a whole lot of other people below. So they're technically the agency. So for example, Brett McFall, I don't know if you know Brett, but Brett's working with us on that part. So he just calls that a special report, which is the first part of it. And like I say, the mastermind is at the agency level, and then we notify Luco, the guy that's actually working with us, to help us in that process. So these are the different things. So you can see from all of this, for example, so we have a paid one that we have here. So we have it to a certain level. And so I would say if you've got a company of about, say, 5 or 6 people, then you would probably have what we call a starter. And then after that, you would probably start moving up. And, it's not expensive. It's like about 15 American a month. So, and I think the other ones are like about 35, but don't quote me on that. It might have changed. But that's such a time saver. And like I say, you can literally just jump on this on your phone as well. And you can see all of that stuff and it'll give you reminders and all that sort of stuff. And it's all connected to your, in our case, Google Calendar and all the rest of the process as well. So same thing, there's the prompts there. What do you want to do? Yeah, it just continues through that different spot. So here we are. So you'll love this one. So I had to come up with a name for it. So I just called it Roby and the ostrich, right? So, or Robbie. This is all done. I don't know if anyone knows about the software called Descript, right? So I literally just went in there and I asked for a robot and an ostrich with its head in the sand or on the sand. And in an office environment with high windows and blue and timber desks. And this is what it produced. So this is, I know a few weeks ago, we had a lady that was going through, was a professional photographer and she was using it. But this is what you can, this is the scenario of what you can do with AI in everything you do. So it's a very interesting spot. But when you start looking at that whole process of the robot and the ostrich, which one do we want to be? And I hope no one's going to sort of say, "Well, nah, I'm done." I don't think it doesn't matter what your age. It's important that we are, what would you say, just open to the whole process and utilize it in your life for your benefit. It's like the days of obviously back in the horse and cart and that. Now we drive around nice fast cars and all the rest of it. I'm sure we don't want to go back to that stage of life. So just briefly going through that again, the 5 smart ones, just to keep us understanding the whole process.
7.
Is 1, to systemize everything you can. Right. So if you in that part, so systemized, do it on your phone, do whatever you need to do, but plonk it into a system ideally like Asana that it can talk. Don't just stick it into your Dropbox or your Google Drive or whatever you do, because it'll just get buried in there. Make your business run without you. So one of the first questions that we always ask people is that they come along and I want to sell my business. And the first question I ask, say, could you go away for, say, 4 to 5 months on a nice holiday around Europe, for example? And they go, no. And I said, well, how long could you go away for? You go away for a month. And they go, no. Some of them say, I'll be lucky to go away for a week. So unless you want to sell yourself with the business and then you work for someone else for bugger all, then it's the only way that business is ever going to get sold with you tied to it. So you must make our businesses run without us. And I know it's not that easy to say, but it's possible, especially with these types of tools. The other part is obviously automate that low value tasks. So, there's lots of different things like the sort of those general delegation of admin type roles and things in your calendar. All of that stuff can be automated today. And you can utilize, like I say, the tools in the process as well, which is pretty exciting. And then upskill your team. Don't just hand everything over to AI, otherwise it's literally going to rob your business. So we need to upskill our team, and I'm talking about upskilling our team where they learn about the tools of prompting the AI. So they've got an assistant of a whole lot of different softwares we've talked about, and they're going to start using those tools. So we know we have to have principles and ethics and all the rest of it that goes with it. So don't compromise that. But I really do encourage people to really start thinking about how they can do that. And I know that he's got a program coming up very soon, and I won't pull but you want to jump on some of what Nick's going to do there that would start helping a team really start using some of those tools. And Nick's got a lot of tools up his sleeve, and he'd be the best person to go on to upskilling your team. Then number 4, obviously, again, make your data-driven decisions fast. So that can be at your fingertips, right? Where the Asana's reporting, and I tell you, it sends you emails, it sends you texts if you really want it, but it sends you emails to say you haven't met this target, you haven't done this. So it's not what you set for rules and all the rest of it. It'll punch all that stuff out. So back again, if you can centralize your data, utilize your CRM, so they have got ones that you can connect that all to as well. And you can connect all of those sort of processes to it. And then build a business that can work without you. Just imagine if you don't want to sell it, but then you want to go on holiday for a month to Europe, for example, then you can go and enjoy it. And while you're away, you'll come up with some other scheme and all the rest of the different things and then you can build on that or decide what you want to pivot in your business or do what you want to do or step aside a little bit and let some of the younger people take over. It gives you that time to go and actually think about it. So I know we talked a lot about robots and AI. However, we had to while we were doing AI, I know it's a little fuzzy, this one, but that's actually another AI image that we just punched out before into script. But so we do have a business exit network, so that's online and in person as well. So it's very important to make sure that you connect with people exactly like where we are tonight. So back to the system. So number 1, if nothing else, is screenshot this, do whatever, but create the system. So think of that as the what, right? So just think about you need the system first, and then you add the tools to the system, which is the how. I can't emphasize this greater and you think of anything that you've got, we'll just use McDonald's because obviously a very systemized business. How they can, use teenagers. Obviously now they're using robotic type things apparently in America where they can cook your food and do all sorts of other interesting things. But all of these things are all possible because they've built the system first. So the system is the number 1, and then use the tools from there. So when Nick was talking about Blink, that's exactly who we use. We use Blink in that process. What have we got on this one here?
What's the last one?
There we go. So we use Blink, and so literally you can scan that QR code, and then you'll virtually get all of our details there. So in there, you've got all the social media, you've got websites, you can connect with us on Meet and Greet to see how we can help you, or if you've got someone else that's in a situation that needs even a phone call. All of that is there for your taking, and it's just literally one scan with your phone, and then you'll just follow the prompts from there. And as Nick said, it pops through to your email, but very good format. Like I say, it just we were both in that sort of camp. But I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone for their time, and that if you've got any questions, I don't know what you put in the chat so far, but yeah.
There is a question there, David. Tracy just asking, can you share some details of the Business Exit Club?
Yes, we can do that. So if you click onto that QR code, that will still have all the details, which basically goes to a meetup group. So if on Meetup, we're actually in that platform, and you will see that group in there. Yeah.
That's a physical meetup, isn't it?
Yeah, so we do have one online now because not everyone. So on the first week of the month, on the first week we have a Wednesday, which is online, and then on the Friday at 1 o'clock, we have an in-person event in the Valley. Yeah.
Fabulous, excellent. All right, any sort of questions about that? David's sort of real passion, I think, sort of the reason why he's passionate about this part of it is getting people to be able to exit businesses in a good, orderly manner in a way that actually supports them. And obviously, systems and procedures are the big killer of businesses when they don't have it. So, yeah, any questions or comments? Thank you for this mind-blowing information. Fabulous. Okay, there's the Business Exit Club in there. Excellent.
I've got a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks a lot, David. That was really helpful. And I guess I'm always left wondering, so then how do we do it? And you mentioned Nick's got an event coming up and I'm registered in that. But, I just wonder about that whole, how do you automate a task? And you showed some of what Asana can do. So if someone wants to use a system like Asana, I guess they go online and then they have to work their way through it and work out how to use it and find out the hard way? Or do you know of anyone who specifically teaches that automation of those daily tasks? Because that's what I feel like I keep hearing about, but I don't know how to go about starting to do those things.
Well, in the world of Asana, we actually have templates. So you don't have to start from scratch. So everyone's got the basic and then we build from there. So if you reach out to us, there's a meet and greet call that you can go onto our calendar. So in that sort of thing, a lot of that can be, it's an ongoing process, but you can work with you by basically duplicating those templates that we have and then put your details on it. And we can literally set you up with an account, and that account can start as a guest, and then you can start free. It's only relatively basic, but it starts the process. And then you can pay your own subscription and go from there. But that can actually start that template process and get you going as well.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks very much. Thank you. And
so
thanks. I've got to go, but thanks.
Yeah, that's right. But I don't think we actually talked about so for someone that's actually looking to do that, where we can help them out on a template, we would like to provide one of those for someone tonight who's obviously Nick gets his big wheel out. So for someone like that we can actually do a template to just get them going on that first one and off they get going. So that's what we're offering tonight for someone that their name's in the pot. Yep.
Excellent. Well, that'll come up very shortly. So thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Sort of things that David might be able to help with tonight. What do we got? Thanks, David. Great presentation. Simultaneously intriguing and overwhelming. You're obviously very knowledgeable about and skilled using AI. Much to learn. So thank you. Thanks, Dr. Chris.
I do have a question, if you don't mind.
Tracy, yes, go ahead.
Yes, it looks like an amazing system. I'm just wondering if you can load various mailboxes into it instead of, and then can it read the emails and summarize them if you've got copious amounts of emails?
So on the email type system, you can. So that would still go back to your CRM system where you can automate that. I know we can do that through our system, and even if you want to, Google even has a basic. So same thing, you're not taking away the tools that you're already using, but you're adding that into the process, which then goes through into your how should we say, workflow. So you can connect, like I say, we use Google, for example. you can connect that and you can create these workflows within it, but it's still going through your platform.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So possibly with that, David, and you may or may not know this as well, the likes of Gemini, which is obviously Google's AI platform, that there is one of the connections that you can make with Asana so that you're linking your email inbox in with your workflows in Asana.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay, so Gemini will do all of the things like create your email responses, so you can train Gemini to do all that, but you can use Asana for your workflow management and when to actually trigger off those emails.
Exactly, same thing. All a series of tools, and it goes back to that one platform. So there's all of these things that are going on behind the scenes, and then it comes back to one central spot. That's how we have to look at it. So you're not abandoning what you've got, and you're using other tools and the workflows that connect back. Yeah.
So it's a bit like a hub and spoke. Asana becomes your hub, and
yes,
then spokes out to all your other tools, and so it shoots out there, and then you get information that flows back. But it's all controlled within that one central tool.
Yes, exactly. That's the best way to look at it. Yeah.
Perfect.
Based on your previous review, first up on Jasper AI with the marketing, and it sounds like something similar. Can you connect that into Asana?
That was
Jasper. So the tool that I showed earlier on, which was Jasper.
okay. Yeah. So without digging into it, I would say you probably could, but you would have to use something like Zapier to connect it into. Yeah. Yeah. Because
look on your face there, Tracy. You know Zapier.
It's just by the time you pay for it,
yeah,
subscriptions are only small, but by the time you add everything to create what you want, like Shopify, you have to add all these different modules on, and then it becomes very expensive.
Yes.
So that's why sometimes, like for example, you can connect in things like Go High Level and whatever. So that's why we looked at that tool, and there's different ones that can connect into it to do those tasks. So if it doesn't, it's a funny thing where if it doesn't work with the same motto, it doesn't work with Asana, we don't sort of plug it in. And we prefer not to ultimately use, and I'm not knocking Zapier, but they're great principle. But like I say, it gets out of hand by the time you're paying the subscription to this, to that. And it's just another link that can fall over as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So it's probably worth, like with all of these tools, looking to see whether they've got native connections, because sometimes they do have these native connections. Zapier is your fallback if it doesn't. So
it is. Yeah, correct.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question, Nick. It's Maria here.
Maria, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Very good.
Yeah. For someone who has no background on AI like me, is there a tutorial that we can study so we have a bit of information before we'll go into the system in Asana?
If you reach out to us, we can actually point you in the right direction there. And because they've got what they call an academy, that it's not like you have to go off to university or something, but it'll give you the brief of that, and we can so if you reach out to us with those details, we can actually send you through something in that space and how it operates. So they start with that starter level, and they've got some really good tools to explain the process, and then you can go further with that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, I think that's probably all we've got time for right now. So thanks, David. Let's give David a big round of applause for sharing his knowledge with us. And we do have our prize draw. So now is not the time to disappear because you need to be in the room to win it. And what was the prize draw again, David? Just give us a reminder of that.
So basically, we have a consultation for 1 hour. But we'll plug in one template with Asana. So you'll have to open up an account and different things, but it'll be like it will probably be more like 2 hours by the time we get you all set up. So we'll get you a template going in Asana.
Fabulous. Excellent. All right. Well, let's bring up our wheel of names, see who our lucky winner is for that tonight. So everyone's name is in. So if you're not in the room, well, you won't know that you won, but we just go and redraw it again. So don't disappear now. All right, let's spin the wheel. See who our lucky winner is for tonight. Oh, look at that. It's Josie Fisher. That is David's partner in crime.
She'll be helping herself.
Now, I have to say, I didn't rig this one at all. So,
No.
oh, was it Josie or is it on Maria? Did we spin it again?
No, you haven't spun it. It was definitely
Ah.
Josie. So give it another go. Yeah.
Okay, let's spin it again. And our lucky winner this time is Neil Moxie. Are you still in the room, Neil? I have a suspicion he might have disappeared, actually. And he's recently exited his business, so he's enjoying the fruits of his of what he did. All right, let's remove Neil. Let's draw it one more time. Spin the wheel one more time.
I'm watching.
Who's got their intention on today? And it is Mike Palmer. Lucky Sir Mike. There you go, Mike. Good to turn up. Good to stay tonight. You're the lucky recipient of that door prize with Asana with David. So congratulations.
Well done, Mike. Well done, Mike. Yeah.
That's excellent. Thank you very much. Very good.
Fabulous. And what we'll do is, I was going to say, we'll connect you with David tomorrow by email. But you've got his details as well, so feel free to reach out to him, but we'll still connect you anyway. All right, so this show will be up on the YouTube channel, Smashco YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon. If you want to watch it again or you want to point to someone else there. And so once again, thanks, David, for sharing your expertise with us tonight. Next week, our topic is on LinkedIn. So if you've come across an app called My Most Trusted, we have an expert in that area there coming to talk to us about how to build a virtual network of curated clients or prospects or professionals you want to deal with on the LinkedIn platform to make it a whole lot more usable. All right, well, that's our session for tonight. I should say too, we do have, tomorrow is when we're launching that program that David spoke about, which is the AI for Business, which is specifically around ChatGPT and integrating into some of the other tools like Go High Level, which is what David talked about as well. So that program starts at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. There is still time to register for that if you are interested in that. We'll drop the link into chat. In fact, it is in chat there now. And so now is a good time to save the chat. If you click those three little dots on the top right of the chat, then you can save it. All the links for the online tools are there, plus all those links from David as well. If you want to get in touch with David, then go and sort of click through on those links as well. All right, that's a wrap for this session's Business Owners Smashing It Online. Go and have a sensational evening and see you next week. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Business Owners Smashing It Online podcast. You can also find me on social media and online. Just search for Business Owners Smashing It Online and Nick Cree, spelled Nickcree, all one word. If you like this and want to hear more, subscribe now. Until next time, don't be a slave to your business. Get your business working for you.